What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel and podcast network. He is Andrew Destin. I am Noah Hiles. We are coming to you live from PNC Park on a beautiful Sunday afternoon in the Steel City. I just got done covering some baseball. Andrew just got done with the furry convention and joined us over here on the North Shore. I'm just kidding. We were both here. Pirates drop a tough one to the Mets, but we're not going to talk about the baseball on the field, Andrew. We're going to talk about the biggest news of the day. Bryan Reynolds, a two-time All-Star.
Yeah.
And Paul Skenes also made it, which is actually going to be the primary subject of this video. Just a reaction to the news. Paul Skenes becomes the first ever top overall pick to make an All-Star game the year after he was selected in the draft. He is one of, I believe, 32 first-time All-Stars this year, 17 of those first-timers pitchers. Andrew, 10 starts into this guy's career, and he's pitching or has an opportunity to pitch in the Midsummer Classic. I ask you, shocked, deserving? What are your thoughts?
A little surprised.
Really?
If you'd asked me this question a month ago, I would say that he was not deserving, that he had not made enough starts. But, as he continued to rack up starts, as he continued to rack up these performances, it became kind of undeniable, really. So I think the surprise element to me kind of just vanished as he continued to rack up starts, especially as we just really didn't see him ever actually struggle. Like, if you want to talk about, okay, he didn't have his fastball today or didn't have his slider or these kinds of elements, the fact of the matter is the on-field results were basically been excellent entirely. So I think if we're just going based off merit, maybe he hasn't made enough starts in some people's eyes, myself included, as recently as a month ago. But I would say that the way that he's pitched, how dominant he's been, absolutely deserving.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, you could argue the sample size is small, but there have been plenty of All-Stars in years past who started the season on the IL, missed the first month. A guy like Steven Kwan for the Guardians right now, who I'm pretty sure he's an All-Star. If he didn't get announced today or earlier in the week as a starter, he definitely will make it as a reserve here when they announce substitutions. But I mean, he was a guy who didn't start the year healthy. He's been one of the best hitters in baseball. He should be an All-Star. Same thing for Paul Skenes. I don't care if he started in AAA or if he started on the IL, whatever the case may be. This is an event that showcases the best talent in baseball, and there aren't 5 pitchers in the National League. There aren't 5 pitchers on planet Earth right now who are throwing the baseball better than this guy. It's just a matter of fact. You look at the numbers, compare them since he's been up. I understand he came up 6-7 weeks into the regular season, but this is a guy who belongs in this showcase because he is, as of now, one of the best pitchers in the game. So he deserves to be there. I think that, like you said, Andrew, I mean, I saw this coming a little bit further down or earlier than you. I said it on radio, I believe, in early June. I just kind of saw what we've seen, like you pointed out, from the very start, that this guy has never really had a bad game. And it's just undeniable. I think it's a crazy claim to make, but at the same time, it makes sense. I mean, this is probably the best player on their team right now. And if they had to pick one, it probably should have been him to begin with. So that leads me to my next question for you, Andrew. Should he start? Let's look at the calendar right now. It's kind of lining up perfectly for him, at the very least, to pitch. And, before everyone starts worrying about the innings limit and everything, it will only be 1 inning. But I believe he's scheduled to start either Wednesday or Thursday in his next outing. So if that's the case, that lines him up again to pitch, what would that be, Tuesday. Wednesday? Yeah. So seems ideal. What say you? Should he pitch, and will he start?
Will he pitch? Yes.
Okay.
Should he start? In my opinion, no. And I realize that's probably going to upset some people, and frankly, it's probably not reality. If MLB has already gotten this far of getting a guy who's only made this many starts to the game, it's low-hanging fruit, right? Like, this guy is such a big draw. You can market it out the wazoo. Yeah. I understand all those things. Me, personally speaking from my opinions, no, he should not start. You got to earn your stripes a little bit. There have been other guys who have paid their dues, other guys who have been as dominant, like Chris Sale. You could go across the board to Ranger Suarez with the Phillies. Mm-hmm. For me personally, I just think that that's something that you have to earn a little bit. I go back to what happened with the Matt Harvey situation where he started the All-Star game for the Mets. Certainly warranted, but when you look back on it a little bit, okay, maybe the guy's career didn't exactly pan out that way. I'm not trying to bestow any of that upon Paul Skenes, but when you look back in hindsight, might have been a little bit too premature for Matt Harvey. That being said, Paul Skenes is a very different pitcher. It's a very different talent than what we saw with Matt Harvey.
Yeah.
I just think there's a point to, hey, you got to earn your stripes a little bit. I think he knows that. I think he's fully aware of that.
I don't think Paul feels entitled to anything.
Exactly.
But so. I will say, I hear every point that you've made, Andrew. But this is an opportunity to promote the game of baseball at its finest.
Sure.
And there's no bigger pitching story in baseball right now than Paul Skenes, and for that reason, I would start him. Like you said, if you're gonna go out, this wasn't a charity All-Star.
No, not at all.
This wasn't a promo. This wasn't a Bronny James getting picked in the second round here. I mean, he earned this opportunity, and if you're gonna go and compare him to everyone else who earned this opportunity off of this year's body of work, looking at where he lines up on the day that he can pitch, I don't know. I mean, Suarez, sure, he's been the best pitcher in the NL this year. Chris Sale has been phenomenal. He looks like he's pitching in Boston again. But I don't know where those guys fall on the calendar compared to Skenes, one. And two, even if they do, I think if you took a consensus poll among baseball fans, this is who you want to see. You want to see, the clip of him going up against Betts, Ohtani, and Freeman is still on my social media timelines and my For You pages. And that was a month ago almost now. Yeah. So imagine him versus Gunnar Henderson, the first at bat of the All-Star game, the best young pitcher in the sport versus the best young hitter in the sport. And he follows that up against Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. That's something I would sign up to watch. And if that does happen, that's the story of the game. I don't care what happens after. If I'm a sports writer and I don't even need to be covering the Pittsburgh Pirates, that's the lead. That's the big story. It's if he does well, he does well. If he doesn't do well and he gets rocked, then that's also the story. But you get a memorable All-Star moment regardless of what happens when you trot Paul Skenes out there. I think it's something that should be heavily considered by those in charge of making that decision. Andrew, you'll be covering the game. I just want to can you think of a bigger storyline that's going to be happening in Texas next week when you're there than this guy? I mean, good luck trying to get quotes from him. You're going to be fighting about 500 other people who want to talk to this guy. I don't know. He is the story of the All-Star game. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's certainly a few places you could go, whether that's, the new version of the Bash Brothers of the Yankees with Soto and Judge.
Right.
You can talk about, the Ohtani presence there for the first time with the Dodgers.
And since his offseason.
Yes, right.
That'll be people will have questions on that, but
you go down to it, none of those compare to what Paul Skenes has done this year.
Right.
And frankly, even on a local level, I'll give the kudos to a guy like Mason Miller who will be there for the A's.
Yes.
Like, there's so much Pittsburgh-centric storylines here. They're certainly intriguing. They're certainly fun to watch. But Paul Skenes is certainly the headliner of them for me, and he's certainly going to earn his flowers, and he's going to have his attention on him, that's for sure.
A place I have my attention on, Andrew, is the NorthShore Tavern, which is what this show is brought to you by. If you love baseball, you'll love the NorthShore Tavern. There's interior wall-to-wall Pirates. They have appetizers, entrees, cocktails, and, of course, steak and seafood on a sizzling lava stone. Open every day. The NorthShore Tavern is right across the street from PNC Park. And it's Pittsburgh's home for steak on a stone. Might be a good place to watch the All-Star game. Before we wrap it up, Andrew, we also need to talk about the Pirates' other All-Star, which we talked about in the beginning of the show. Bryan Reynolds' second All-Star nod for the Pirates left fielder. Very deserving, and I think it comes after a absolute dominant month of June.
Yeah, if he's not in this lineup in all of June, the Pirates are not a playoff team or even considering that.
Yeah.
That's my takeaway on it. I hate to be so blunt, but if he's not leading the charge of this offense, they're probably 5 or 6 more games below 500. Mm-hmm. He has been just as key, if not more so, to the Pirates' success than Paul Skenes. Certainly earned his flowers. Good for him to be back there, and kudos to him. I mean, this has been a resurgent season, given last season was a little bit of a dip down. He was still a productive player for them, especially the first year of the contract. But this year, he has been worth every penny.
That's what you talked about, earning the flowers, that he earned his extension.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what you pay for when you sign a guy to an extension that they signed Reynolds to. It's you want a guy to be an all-star. And granted, I mean, the money Reynolds is making isn't you have to be an all-star every time money. Maybe in the Pirates' eyes it is, but in the reality of baseball, it's not. But I mean, this is a guy who is one of the best outfielders in the National League. You can compare that to numbers. And as we've said numerous times before, both on this YouTube and podcast channel or in our writing, his floor is so much higher than everyone else's floor on this team. It's pretty insane when you consider. I mean, even his bad stretches, he's still one of the better hitters on this team, which I think says more about the team than him. But nonetheless, I mean, this guy, and pun intended, because he's a Vanderbilt guy, he has anchored this lineup. And this is exactly what you want if you're the Pittsburgh Pirates when you acquire a guy in a trade for what was the time the face of your franchise. He comes up and he has been now a 2-time All-Star. And as Derek Shelton says, he deserves to be in the conversation of he's not just a guy who had one good season. He's among the best, one of the better players in the game. So that's all I've got. Andrew, any final thoughts?
Just looking forward to it. Grateful to be there covering it. And I'm sure we will all continue, both myself and Noah. We're going to have lots of content leading up to this stuff. So it's certainly going to be exciting.
We sure will. He's Andrew Destin. I'm Noah Hiles. Check out all of our work at Post-Gazette.com. We've got some big games, 9 games remaining before the All-Star break, or 7 games remaining, I should say, before the All-Star break. They all are obviously very important to the Pirates. We'll have you covered there, and you can continue to check in on all of our coverage at the Post-Gazette Sports Now YouTube channel and podcast network. Take care.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.